Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made a two-part mould to cast my Merr Sonn Power 5 to get copies in a black resin like this one. So, without further ado, let's go. So, moulding and casting. For an in-depth look at this, I recommend checking out Bill and Brittany Duran over on Punished Props over on YouTube. They are great. For this, we are just building walls out of foam core and then just pouring in the silicone. This is a two-part mould. At this point, I've built up the bottom of the mould using clay. I actually tried to use some floor mat foam as well. Don't do this. It was a rubbish idea. It didn't work. So here we have the first side poured and set, and I flipped it over, and now we're just going to be clearing out that clay so we can pour the second side. Once that was done and all set up, it was time to liberate the master. So we're just going to clear away some of the boards that made up the walls, and instead about freeing it now, they do have a little bit of trouble coming apart. We sprayed our mould release in there before doing it to make sure that they're not going to stick to each other, because if I hadn't, they would have. But yeah, just working it free. I think I used the scalpel at some point just to help free up some of the edges, but being careful not to tear it. You can be quite vigorous with it though, and not cause too much issue. There it goes. It just pops open, and now we can free the master from the two halves. You can see some of the registration keys I put in there just to help the mould lock back together. Probably should have done a few more, but it was fine. It worked pretty well. Just had to clean out some of the stuff that had come off of the master. It was sort of like a Denix mouther, so it was oiled and painted, so there was some debris there just to clean off. But other than that, the mould just fits back together like so. I think I was just cleaning up some of the flashing on the mould with the scalpel there, and you can see the main pour spout there and the two vent holes I did to let the resin out. Next comes casting. I'm using Smooth On 45D. The B part has a So Strong black pigment in it. I just dumped a whole bottle of that into there with it, really. I think that was about the right amount, but seems to work. Didn't cause any sort of curing issues or anything. I just had to work out how much resin to use for each mould. You can see the mould I've jigged it up on this little foam core base just to keep it all level, and just used elastic bands to strap it up. I worked out the right amount of resin to use and then just poured the right amount of A and B into the mixing jug. Once it's in there, the reaction starts taking place, so you have to be real quick. You have to not neglect stirring it though, because otherwise it's not going to cure properly because the parts aren't properly mixed. So you kind of have to judge how long you have to stir it for versus how long you're going to have to pour it before the resin starts curing and it becomes not usable at all. Here you can see me pouring some of the resin into the big mould first. This was just to get that going. I then usually did the two smaller moulds for the two smaller parts, just so I don't forget, because I think a couple of times I did forget, and then you run out of resin. And just making sure to slush it around into that little mould, getting it down into all the crevices there before topping it up. Here you can see me rotating the cast around. It's quite a good workout. You have to start moving the resin around inside, getting it to coat all of the walls. I usually did this in 3 or 4 sort of passes, pouring and turning. Just because of the way I designed the mould, I don't think it's the most efficient that it could be. I'm still getting some air bubbles trapped in certain places each time. It probably could have been fixed if I had adjusted where I put the pour spout. but you live and learn, and you know, you can only do it better next time. Yeah, again, it's getting quite full now, you can see, and this is when you tell if your straps are not tight enough or there's not enough. It would start leaking. Luckily I had enough, and that was it full, and we're done. I keep the resin in the mixing cup there, just as a control to see when the resin is set up, so we can see when to demold it. Usually I go by the little ones. Once the little ones are done, you can be pretty sure the big one's done, just because of the exothermic reaction that happens with the resin. Just liberating the small one from its jacket and locating the zigzag cut that I put into the mould. And there we go. You know, we just need to trim off that flashing and we pretty much have a usable part. And now on to the moment of truth in liberating the master. I believe this was the first cast that I'm filming here. So it was the first ball I had. Did have a little bit of spillage, which we needed to trim free. Other than that, it was just popping it open to see what we got. Bit of working just to free up those edges. I did spray my mold release, or sometimes I did use some talcum powder or baby powder just to reduce the friction on the silicone. But that was the first casting out of the mold. You can see the two sprues there just helping the resin evacuate. But yeah, these were easily trimmed off, and it was just a case of working the cast free. And eventually it just pops right out. And you can see how it comes out there, all ready to be trimmed up and finished. And that was that. That's how I made the mold, and now we can make as many copies as we can until the mold wears out a little bit. I now have quite a few copies in this black Smooth On 45D, the black rubber resin. If you're watching this at the time that I made it, around the time that I made it, I do actually have a few of these ready for sale as kits. Just head over to Buckethead Props on Facebook if you are interested in purchasing one. You can see if I still have any left. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.